Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the second video, and in this video we're going to be looking at some of the highlights from the course information sheet, the syllabus. So I do want to make sure you know that I'm just going to be hitting the highlights real fast. This is not really a substitute for you going through the syllabus, reading it yourself in detail, but it does tell you some of the highlights. Okay, so you know from the last video that the syllabus is posted to our Moodle website. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that syllabus now, that link, and pull up our syllabus and go through it with you together. All right, so here's the syllabus. We've talked a good deal about all this stuff. You know probably when the class meets. There's my information in case you need it. There's our textbook and a link to our textbook. Here's office hours. We already talked about that on Moodle. I'm going to talk a little bit about the goals of the course. So in this course, we're going to start by studying the rigorous foundations of calculus. Here are some of the other topics that we'll talk about. You can read more about those on your own. Let's see. All right, I do want to mention this. There will be a nightly reading assignment. So you will be reading the text before we cover that topic in class. So I'll post a reading assignment each night. The reading assignment comes with a few questions to help focus your attention, and you'll need to answer those questions in Moodle. So and you already saw that assignment in the last video. The first assignment in the last video. So again, each reading assignment will tell you what to read and which questions to answer. You'll type those answers directly in Moodle, and then that way we can get to more in-depth questions in class. Right. So if you already have an introduction to the material, we'll be able to move on to more complicated, more in-depth problems in class, more in-depth examples in class, and I think that's a really good thing. Okay. Let's see. This is about technology. We already talked about WebAssign and how to log on, so I'm not going to repeat that. We've already talked about the class textbook, so I'm not going to repeat that at all either. I do want to just say again information about the graphing calculator. You will need a graphing calculator on tests and the homework. You cannot use a calculator that does symbolic differentiation and integration, so the TI-89, the TI-Inspired, those are not allowed. If you have a graphing calculator and you want to know if it is allowed, show it to me, and I can sort of take a look and tell you yes or no. You should bring your calculator to each class session. Now, I'm going to be trying out for the first time this semester an app called GraphLock. This is a graphing calculator app that sort of during a test will lock your phone so that you can't have access to the internet, but you can still use it as a graphing calculator. I think that's a really nice feature. It's far cheaper than a graphing calculator, and it's one that I'm going to be experimenting with this time around. This says it's only for iPhone or iPad. I think that may not be true. I think I looked. I think it may be available on other devices as well, but that's something that you need to check out on your own. So if you don't want to purchase a $100 calculator, you don't have a $100 graphing calculator, you'd like to use this, I'll give you more information about that in class, but GraphLock is something that we'll be trying this semester. Okay. We are going to be reading the textbook. You are going to be reading the textbook before we cover a topic in class. And so we already talked about that. Most of the homework will be done via WebAssign. This is something important. I haven't talked about it yet, but I think it's very, very important. Students will be granted one 48-hour extension on a homework assignment upon request for 75% credit. So I know there's a lot of, if you've got a paper due the next day or you forget about an assignment, this stuff happens. I understand that. That's not a big deal. So if you are late on an assignment, there's a way in WebAssign to request an automatic extension. And once you do so, you'll get 75% credit on the stuff you haven't done yet. So let's say that you've already completed half the questions. You'll go ahead and get those grades are done, right? You already get that half. That's not going to be the half that you've already done is not going to be penalized. Only the part that you haven't done will be penalized. That will get that grade penalty, if that makes sense. And again, you can automatically request that. It says 48 hours. After 48 hours, that window closes and you're no longer able to ask for an extension. So keep that in mind. And finally, if there are extenuating circumstances like a death in the family, or you're very, very sick, or you're in the hospital, something like that, I'm happy to give you an extension for those sorts of reasons. With no grade penalty, but don't use that automatic extension request in WebAssign. Just email me directly, and I'll grant you an extension that way for those sorts of circumstances. Okay. Here's the attendance policy. You can read more about it. I will say you need documentation for an absence to be excused, and you really need to let me know ahead of time if you know that you will be absent, like for a job interview, that sort of thing. This is how I'll be handling missed work or missed tests, that sort of thing, based on an unexcused absence. It is important to note that no student with 3 or more unexcused absences will be permitted to drop the course with a passing grade. So again, no student with 3 or more unexcused absences will be permitted to drop the course with a passing grade. Okay? We're going to transition into the grading for the class. There's going to be 3 in-class tests, and there's going to be 1 proofs portfolio that will count as a test grade as well. I'll give you lots more information about that proofs portfolio in the days ahead. So stay tuned. Here is how the grade weighting works. Reading assignments will comprise 5% of your grade. Final exam is 25%. Tests and quizzes will be 45%, and homework will be 25%. And that's how that's how I will assign grades at the end of the class. Okay, this is very, very important. It is, and I'm just going to read it. It is the policy of the mathematics department that professors strictly enforce the WP/WF grade policy. Okay, that is, every student with an F in the course who wishes to withdraw after the drop-add period will be assigned a grade of WF. So just a word of explanation if you don't know what all that means. If you need to withdraw in the middle of the semester from a course and you're passing the class, you'll be assigned a grade of WP. That means withdraw passing. That shows up in your transcript but does not affect your GPA in any way whatsoever. A WF is assigned if you are currently failing the class and you want to withdraw from that class. That shows up in your transcript, and it counts as an F towards your GPA. That's not a good thing. You don't want that to happen. So you'd like to avoid that at all, if at all possible. Okay. So it says the mathematics department strictly enforces that grade policy. So if you're failing, you'll get a grade of WF. There are some professors, there are some classes, there are some departments who will give WP grades even if a student is failing. So it is important for you to know that this is not one of those classes. This is not one of those departments. So let's see. I'm just going to read I'm going to read the rest of it. A student with a grade higher than F who wishes to withdraw will receive a grade of WP, provided that the student has less than 3 unexcused absences. A student with 3 or more unexcused absences who wishes to withdraw will be assigned a grade of WF. The reason that the mathematics department enforces this policy is just to ensure that students are doing their homework. So if you're doing your homework, you're going to be passing the class. There's going to be nothing to worry about. So again, this is just to ensure that students are doing their homework. That's really all it's about. Okay, so there's some information about when the final exam takes place, so take a look. This is about the honor code. So any work that, copying another student's homework is a breach of the honor code. Right, so tests and quizzes will be taken individually. So since homework is practice for a test or quiz, you should do that individually as well. Right. So here is a list of appropriate sources for homework that is to be turned in. So you can take a look at this. You can use a peer tutor or a math tutor. You can work with other students as long as you're not copying, as long as you understand the work that you're turning in. Our class textbook, me. Your personal class notes, any materials posted on our Moodle site, an approved graphing calculator, or like the graph lock for your phone, right? Anything else is not really allowed. There is one other note. There are some resources that will help you do your homework that might show you how to do step-by-step an integral that you type in. I am fine with you using those as long as you are using those responsibly. What do I mean by responsible use of those tools? So if you attempt a problem several times and get it wrong several times, and then you turn to one of these programs to show you the steps, and then you use those steps to learn how to do the next problem, I'd say that's really responsible use. That sounds good. That's supporting a student's learning. Irresponsible use would be typing in every single problem to this website, getting the answer, copying down the answer without any understanding whatsoever. That's irresponsible use. That is not supporting your learning. So I'm okay with you using technology to support your learning. I'm not okay with you using technology to just get the grade without doing any learning. Okay, so it is so as the honor code goes, you're allowed to use these technological resources provided that you are using them in a responsible manner. You're not allowed. It would be against the honor code to use it in an irresponsible manner. That's just exactly what I talked about. All right. The last thing is just a tentative syllabus. So here are the topics that we're going to be covered in the sequence that we're going to be covering them in. This is subject to change if we get behind or we get ahead or whatever. I will say that the test dates are sort of set in stone, so you can go ahead and mark those in your calendar. They're also programmed into Moodle, so those are very unlikely to change. I will point out that this exam too is the Friday before spring break, so do not make travel plans. Right? You need to be there for that test. All right, so that concludes this information about the syllabus. Again, I hope you'll read through it carefully so you can see all the details yourself. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in class.